This is Talk Sports Extra Time. I'm Mike Graham, and I'm delighted to say that for his first appearance of the week, Mr. Mike Porky Parry has joined us. A very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
Very good morning, Mike. Thanks very much indeed. It's not actually my first appearance of the week because the interest in my penalty taking at half-time at Stevenage was so great.
Was it?
That I did make a guest appearance on Hawksby and Jacobs this afternoon. Yes.
Oh, well, that's kind of you to let me know.
Afternoon,
Kind of you to tell me you were going to do that ahead of time, so that I could have had a listen to it.
Yeah, well, I think you're probably a very busy man.
I was in transit
Got
at the
better
time.
things to do in transit at the time. But, Mike, let me just pull you up on something before we go any further in the show, okay?
Right.
You keep telling your millions of listeners that, in fact, I missed a penalty at Stevenage.
You did, yeah.
No, it's not true.
Well, did you score a penalty then?
No, I didn't.
Oh, right.
Because
so you must have missed it then.
No, I didn't take a penalty. You see, what happened was I kicked the ball from the penalty spot, but it wasn't a penalty. What it was...
What was it then?
Well, what they do is they put this huge canvas and drape it down from the crossbar in the goal, and in the middle of this huge canvas is a hole the size of a ball, and what you have to do is you have to kick it from the penalty spot and get it through the hole.
All right.
If you do that, you get £250 for your favourite charity. I chose Sight Savers, and the world would be a great place. The only problem is that
So you didn't actually get any money then for it?
Well, I'm not sure, actually. I'm not sure whether you get £250 for competing or whether you only get it if you get the ball through the hole.
Of course, this sorted out the contract negotiations before you actually did it.
Not really, to be honest. I was rather more concerned about the fact that Everton were 2-0 up at that time, and I didn't want to scoff up the pitch for them in order that they should increase their lead after half-time, which they duly did. And thank you to Stevenage, by the way, who are a wonderful club, and made me feel very welcome. But you have to understand, Mike, the skill I was asked to perform is so difficult. You could have done it for 10 years and never got that ball through that hole.
How many people tried?
Only myself and Keith Deller, the World Darts Champion.
Right.
But Keith Deller, who's a former World Darts Champion, said, to be perfectly honest, Mike, it'd be easier for me to hit a bullseye on a darts board from 12 yards than get that ball through.
You probably should have thrown a dart from 12 yards. You probably would have got it through.
Well, I tell you what, it was a very, very difficult skill. Luckily, Leighton Baines gave me some advice on how to do it before I attempted it. Yes, that's the word I was looking for. I was going to say attacked it then.
Oh,
but
what did he say?
Well, I asked him, you see, I like to work these things out scientifically and physically. I thought, can I strike that ball from that penalty spot at an upwards trajectory in a velocity which will take it straight through the hole, or do I have to loop it? You see what I mean? And
curl it slightly even.
No, I didn't want to curl
You hit it with your right foot, I presume.
Yeah, right foot, yeah. And Leighton said, yeah, you can hit it like that. He said, but remember, when I hit one
Was
on
this
the
at half-time
bar,
you asked him this?
he was coming off the pitch as I was going on.
So what, you wanted to get in his head while he was in the midst of a very important fourth-round FA Cup tie against what could have been, as you said, a banana skin for them.
I have to admit, he did look rather bemused in the tunnel when I approached him with this problem and needed his advice.
Well,
but,
did you just grab him? I mean, what was it?
No.
You have to go in for his oranges or something?
No, there was facial recognition, because I've met him before, you see, so I knew exactly who I was. I mean, you've got to remember.
You must have been delighted.
Quite well known in footballing circles, mate.
Oh, I know you are.
And Jimmy, the kit man for Everton, gave me a pair of shorts and a pair of socks.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about your attire, actually,
Yeah.
because there were a number of witnesses to this event, and I saw a couple of pictures that were passed around, and the one of you leaving the pitch, it appears that you're wearing sort of what can only be described as surgical stockings.
No, they were a pair of Everton socks. I mean, they
white ones?
Yeah, with a blue turnover on the top.
Well, they looked like they came all the way up your leg, though.
No. I did try the old John Terry thing and put them over my kneecaps because, to be perfectly honest, it was absolutely freezing cold.
I couldn't see any skin between the socks and the shorts.
It was freezing cold. It was driving rain. I mean, a lesser man than me would not have gone out there and done that afternoon. Considering I had to change from an extremely elegant black suit and shirt and tie into my football gear.
And you said you were going to do that in a referee's changing room. Did you do that?
No. I had the indignity of being shoveled off to the mascot's room. And so I shared my changing facilities with a guy who looked like a teddy bear, who was trying to tell me how to kick the ball with his big teddy bear feet.
Right.
But he's a very nice chap. He's the club mascot, and I think he's 67 years of age.
Is he?
That's what he told me.
Well, he's only slightly older than you, then.
That's a bit harsh. And but a very nice guy, and
But it was very weird. I mean, lots of people were saying, making remarks about who you look like, and the general consensus was you look like Father Jack from that show, Father Ted. You know, the Irish guy.
No, I don't know.
Have you never seen that
No,
show?
I've never seen that, no.
All right, well, I'll show you a picture of him later.
Well, I'm not really interested in seeing that picture,
It was more the way your hair was kind of blowing off to the side as well.
Well, that's due to very fierce winds blowing rain across the pitch.
I was actually a bit worried about you, because in the afternoon when I was listening to Talk Sport, I could hear the reports coming in that the Luton game had just been put off.
That's
and
right.
And the tornado, as we now find out, was making its way down through sort of the home counties.
Absolutely. But anyway, look, it was a great afternoon because...
you don't want to talk about the weather then?
Well, I
love the way you just gloss over what I've just spent 5 minutes talking about.
Yeah,
well, anyway.
Yes, but you see, that's now retrospective. We've got to look forward to these things, Mike. And by the way, saw young Andy Gray there, who was co-commenting, did a wonderful job.
Did he look tan from his time in the Middle East?
No, he looked good, he looked fit, and my old pal Joey Barton, of course, was around.
Oh, yes.
So
did you see him as well?
Of course I did, yeah.
And how was he?
Well, in great form. Yeah. So, all in all, I built, quite a few bridges.
Yeah.
Built bridges with Stevenage. Their chairman's Mr. Wallace, a fabulous guy, a very successful businessman, and a good custodian of the club. And
so did you have one kick and this other guy had one kick?
No, three each.
Oh, you had three?
Three each, yeah.
Should we have a listen to what was said afterwards?
Well, you can if you want, but I mean, I'm not sure if it's wholly relevant now because, I've taken penalties before at big grounds and scored.
I think this is the ultimate sort of, disappointing thing to have to hear after you've walked off a pitch.
Oh, really?
Don't get stuck in the mud. Unlucky. A round of applause, please, for trying. Mike Parry.
A round of applause, please, for trying.
A round of applause.
It's what you
say
to like little kids that come up and try to throw something in a coconut.
Oh, really?
Shot.
Is it?
And they don't even reach the actual coconuts at all.
Much as I like
Stevenage.
Stevenage.
Round of applause for trying.
Much as I like Stevenage, and they're a very well run club, I think they should convert that half-time game into a straight penalty shootout.
Yeah.
Because it's more exciting. You've got a goalkeeper who's moving, haven't you? It's going to go one with the other. The ball could fly in the net or fly over the bar or whatever. And
you get Danny Welbeck down and see how he does.
Could get down, or even Punchin. Get old Punchin down to see if he can.
Because is it not one of those places where the ball occasionally goes out of the ground altogether?
Oh, well, this is the funny thing about it, Mike. Last time I saw a ball go out the ground was when I was about 6 watching Chester play at Sealand Road in Chester, and they lost 2 balls in the first half. So one of my big fears was, because the stand's not very high behind the goal, I thought, crikey, don't sky it. If you do, you'll lose a ball. And I'd already been warned not to do that because the ball cost £80 each.
Blimey, that's very expensive ball.
It is. Yeah.
And was it one of these new, was it an FA Cup ball? What sort of ball was it?
It's a pink ball.
Pink ball. Oh, yeah, they were playing with a pink ball, weren't they?
Yeah, pink ball.
I'm not sure I'm keen on the pink ball development.
I don't know, how footballers ever get their eyes to focus on a different coloured ball every game they're playing. Wouldn't you think that when they've got to so mathematically and precisely hit a ball in the right part of the orbital sphere?
Like I was saying to you, with the gloom that descended with that big storm.
It was gloomy.
It was definitely not the same as if you had been doing it during daylight. Now, you said to me last week, it's exactly the same, that the floodlights basically recreate daylight.
Yeah.
I was looking at a video of you shooting that, and it looked very murky. Very murky indeed.
I don't think that the lights at Stevenage will be quite as impressive as the lights at Goodison Park or the Bernabeu or whatever. Nevertheless, it was perfectly adequate for that game. And the great thing about it is the structure of the ground is such that people in the executive boxes, including the directors'
you weren't in one of
lounge.
Those,
well, I was when I was in
there.
You told
me you weren't in an executive box. You said you bought your ticket and you were going to be...
I did.
Sitting with all the fans.
I was sitting with the fans, and I did pay for my own ticket, but I was invited into the sponsors' lounge at half-time to meet a few people who...
you were taking a penalty at half-time.
Yes, but this was after I'd come back off the penalty. Okay. And a few people want to have their picture taken with me and that sort of thing, which, of course, means they must be very hard up for pictures, but that's by the by. Anyway, what about your weekend? Did the plane get a flight this weekend?
Well, no, because the weather was horrendous, wasn't it? I mean, there was no way...
Aeroplanes are supposed to be able to fly in wind and bad weather, so why didn't you get out there? What you're saying is, excuse me, what you're saying is it wasn't the weather that stopped the plane flying, it was the weather that stopped you going out in your sou'wester and entertaining your children with a present I bought them, and which you seem extremely reluctant to put into the air for some reason.
Well, no,
is it
I told
perhaps guilt at your lack of ability?
What's going on with your arm?
Sorry, I was just, I was just making my point and pointing at you that... Maybe, just maybe, I bought your kids a better Christmas present than you did.
Well, actually, no, you didn't. But thank you very much for buying them such a nice Christmas present, although it was about 3 weeks late. That's not the point. The point is that, the difference between your plane and most planes is that most planes are not made of polystyrene. You want to get into a 747 that's made of polystyrene.
It's all
relative.
If
you try to put a polystyrene plane up in the middle of a tornado,
it's all relative to the weight.
What's going to happen to it? I'll never see it again.
Well, hang on. Have you ever seen the film, Those Magnificent Men and Their Flying Machines?
Yes, it's a very old film.
It's a very old film with very old planes in it. What were those planes made of?
Well, they were planes made of balsa wood.
Thank you.
Which is not the same.
So, your theory, just down the Googler, mate.
No,
planes can fly when they're made of polystyrene and balsa wood.
Polystyrene?
Polystyrene,
Well, you would not put a balsa wood plane up into that weather that was up there the other day because it was horrendous. I mean, and anyway, there was lots of other things going on. I had a children's party to take care of on the Sunday, and had it not been raining, yes, I would have taken the kids out and tried to fly. But there's no point taking out in the rain and the wind and the sort of, hurricane force, cold.
It's disgraceful. We're not going out to fly the plane today, boys, because Daddy might get cold and, he's...
Well, that's a consideration. That is a consideration.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Well, don't worry. As the weather gets more clement, we'll have a go at it, and I'll see whether I can fly and
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what your thinking pattern is sometimes. Perhaps you should have stayed at home and played some Beatles records, seeing as you were so fascinated by the Beatles
well, we'll talk
reunion.
about the Beatles in a little while. Let's talk about Mersey Derby.
Let's talk about the Mersey Derby.
Liverpool versus Everton. People are saying it's the most important Liverpool-Everton game for many a year, because technically it could be the one that decides who gets fourth place.
Yes, it could be, although I think that's a bit of a melodramatic moment to say that a game, 2/3 of the way through the season, not even 2/3 of the way through the season, is going to dictate who finishes at the end. I mean, in the first one at Goodison, I was talking to people at Everton and I said this game is going to define our season now, because if we beat Liverpool, which we don't have a huge record of doing, it would have, and of course...
Well, Everton haven't beaten Liverpool at Anfield for ages, have they?
Oh, not during the whole of the Moyes era.
Yeah.
So anyway, my point of my story...
well, there's some hope then, now that Martinez is in charge.
Maybe. But I think we go across Stanley Park with a much more bullish attitude than we did in, maybe David's day. But anyway, the point of my story is that in the first game at Goodison, we were 3-2 up on the 90-minute mark, and then they took a quick free kick. Gerrard whipped the ball across, and it was Sturridge, I think. Oh, no, was it Sturridge? I'm not sure who it was, actually, who got his head in and scored, and it was 3-3. So that felt like a defeat, really, except that a 3-3 result against any Liverpool team is good. I expect Everton to win tomorrow night.
You do?
Of course I do, yeah.
Well, what about tonight?
That's tonight as well, yeah. Yeah, I mean tonight. Yeah, sorry, I keep forgetting it's Tuesday. Yeah.
It's easy to forget it's Tuesday. Days of the week come difficult to somebody of your age, I imagine.
No, not at all, mate. It's just that, having... entertained the world in several different forms today. This is my third visit to a studio today, and so, one can get quite...
super. Well, I hope your royalty checks are flooding in.
Yeah, can get quite confused about, which studio is this, what day is it? It must be Tuesday.
This is TalkSport Extra Time. He is Mike Parry, I am Mike Graham. That is Ringo Starr and Paul McCartney at the Grammy Awards ceremonies. Rather ironic, you might say, that Ringo Starr's singing the line, and I'll try not to sing out of key, when you can't actually sing.
But that wasn't them at the Grammys, was it? That was that's off Sgt. Pepper's, isn't it?
Well, that's a different version of it.
No, but they didn't play that at the Grammys. The bit I saw was McCartney said, actually, we've decided not to sing a traditional Beatles song. We're just going to make one up on the spot. And then
then they sang that as well.
Did they?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, you must have missed that bit.
I must have missed that bit, yeah. But it's ironic that there's only the two of them left because, of course, one of the greatest talents ever of the 20th century, John Lennon, was murdered, as you quite well know, and then George Harrison died of cancer, which is terribly sad, really, when you think that, so many people live to such great ages these days. It's absolutely upsetting. Now, I've got a problem with the Beatles, Mike, which has caused me a lot of embarrassment.
Well, I thought you were their biggest fan.
Well, I am their biggest fan, and this is the problem. See, I found a pub in Surrey, and I have to say, it's not. You wouldn't call it a five-star establishment.
Really?
It's, in fact, a smallish place with a stage in the corner where every Saturday night these rockers with motorbikes turn up outside and bring in their equipment. And I mean, it's a bit of a dingy old dump, if you see what I mean.
Well, sort of a garage band that plays there.
Yeah, something like that. But I mean, I'm not being rude, because the reason I go there is it's got the most fantastic jukebox in the world, right? Yeah. It's got one of these jukeboxes which you can get any record
on. Is it one of the old Wurlitzer ones?
No. It's an electronic one, so you can get any record in the world because it's linked to some computer somewhere in America or something. You know what I mean?
What, you think the jukebox is linked to a computer in America?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Is that what they told you?
No, it's definitely, because if you punch in on the letters, Mary Hopkins, those were the days, you won't find any jukebox in this country.
Surely a big trap door should open and drop you back into the 1970s.
Yeah, 1960s, actually.
Mary Hopkins, yeah.
70s? No, it was 60s. But anyway, the point of my story is, so I go there, and there's a pizza place opposite. And so what I always normally do is I go in and I say, I have a pizza place, but I don't want it for 2 hours. And they say, right, OK. No, seriously. And then I go across to the pub.
Why can't you just order it when you want to take it away?
Well, I don't know. I might forget or something. But anyway, I go across the road, and then I fill up the jukebox with money.
Right.
And
how much is it for a song? Did you get like £3 for £1 or something?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. About £3 for £1, something like that. Anyway, the problem is, that I put on so many Beatles records, it went on for 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Right.
So not only was my pizza cold by the time I got it, but in fact the locals in this pub, which is not my local pub, were absolutely raging. Because they, you see, it was just one Beatles song after another.
Even as great as the Beatles are, after 2 hours and 20 minutes of listening to the Beatles, you would probably be knifing yourself in the arm.
Yeah, well, no, I wasn't. I could listen to them all day, every day. But anyway, I just piled all the money in. I don't know how many songs I got, and I'm pressing all the buttons and all that. And then all these other people come along saying, we don't want any more Beatles, we want something else. But because they play in the sequence in which they're put in, unlike some jukeboxes, which suddenly, if that's number 13, it goes in.
They'll play in the sort of order that they're in the system.
Yes,
right?
exactly. Yeah. That's absolutely right. Yeah, and so I've virtually been banned or told that when I go back there, if I ever go back there,
you're not allowed to play any music.
Well, I'm not allowed to monopolise the jukebox for 2 hours 20 minutes. You see, which is a bit of a problem, really. But I might not go there.
Well, don't worry. I'm sure there's plenty of other pubs that you can frequent.
Well, there isn't.
But there aren't any so close to the pizza place.
No. But how many pubs do you go into these days which have got a jukebox?
I can't remember the last jukebox I saw.
Exactly, that's exactly.
The last jukebox I saw was in a diner in New York, because they have those amazing things where they've got the jukebox at the side of the table.
That's right.
So at every table you can just go through, but it's not digital. It's the old-fashioned sort of, you turn the actual old-fashioned pages.
That's right. Do you remember the Brick Cafe on 3rd Avenue, was it?
Eh?
The Brick Cafe?
Yeah.
It was the end of your room, end of your road.
Yeah, the Bank Cafe.
The Bank Cafe. What did I say? The Brick Cafe.
The Brick Cafe.
Yeah, I'll say it's built with bricks.
Somewhere else.
Yeah,
it was built with bricks. It used to be a bank. That was why they called it the Bank Cafe.
Oh, was it? That's right. Yeah. Well, do you remember we used to go in there, and my favourite record in there was the slow version of Layla. You know Clapton's Layla.
Yeah, like the acoustic version.
You got me in your heart, or whatever.
No, those aren't the right words. So I know what you mean. Yes.
Yeah, rather than the fast version of years ago.
Yeah.
And
which was Derek and the Dominoes.
Derek and Dominoes, that's right. Yeah, and I do like those jukeboxes. I think they're great. In fact, there were a few. Didn't Eamon's used to have a jukebox?
Yeah, a lot of places did.
And my favourite on that one was New York, New York by Frank Sinatra.
Yeah.
Remember? We used to play that like nostalgically because we were in New York.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I know. Now, let me ask you a question.
Chicago,
I'm going to ask you a question now.
Go on.
What is the manliest thing you've ever done? The reason I'm going to ask, I'm going to give you a couple of things, because everybody's done a manly thing. I'm going to ask you why. The reason for this is the story that came in from New Zealand, right? There's a New Zealand guy, he's a junior doctor. He survived being attacked by a shark because he had a knife with him. And he fought the thing off with a knife. Yeah. He then stitched his own wound while he was on shore. And then he went to the pub for a beer before taking himself off to hospital.
Cool, blimey.
Well, that's the kind of thing that real men do, isn't it?
Well, it's a sort of Crocodile Dundee type story. Really in fact, isn't there a killer croc on the loose in Australia? There isn't.
The one that snatched the child.
Yeah.
A 12-year-old child.
Terrible.
Unbelievable
can't
story.
Bear it, can you? What's the manliest thing I've ever done?
I'll give you some time to think about it, because we're going to ask other people to text us in with the manliest thing they've ever done as well.
I mean, I never boast about my manliness. I think you assume it, don't you? Really, if you're a male, I don't. I'm just trying to think. Maybe it was. Maybe it's
when I saved a damsel in distress or something like that.
Well, I've done that a few times, but I think it was probably when I went to Libya to try and sort out the East-West situation.
Oh, yeah.
And my reward from the Americans was a sidewinder off an F-111 straight up the Jackson.
Was that like when you used to say that, every night at 6 o'clock to time it with the 6 o'clock news in America, that all these people would suddenly turn up outside the hotel
it was
and
unbelievable.
start chanting, down, down, USA. And then they'd go there for about 15 minutes for the cameras and they'd all disappear again.
Well, it was unbelievable. There's a place in the middle of Tripoli called Slab Square, or Green Square, right? Green for the revolution.
Yeah.
And they used to, the army would go rounding people up and then give them green flags and get them into the square, and it was down, down, USA, down, down, every day. But there were only about 30 of them, but they had very, very skillful cameramen who used to stand at the front of this mob with the cameras at ankle level and show them going up. So it looked like
there was about 30,000
Oh, it looked like about 30,000 of them. And there was only literally a handful, like a dozen there. But the problem was, it was okay when it was down, down, USA, down every day. When they suddenly learned that the planes that were bombing the hell out of them came from Lakenheath in Cambridgeshire, it turned to down, down, Thatcher, down, down, Thatcher.
Well, and that doesn't rhyme with every day, though, does it?
No.
They don't have a second line for that one.
No, but the point is, at that stage, I stopped telling people I was British and told everybody I was Irish, because the mob were getting quite nasty. Yeah. Quite nasty.
Well, actually, it's quite a good thing to have an Irish passport travelling in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Now, we talked the other week about that white dove that I found in my garden.
Yes.
So I want to ask you about this as well. I don't know if you saw the Pope's message of peace the other day that he was making from...
and he let the doves go, and they got killed by an eagle.
Well, he let the 2 white doves go, and this horrible black bird appeared.
Oh,
it
that's
was a
right.
crow, I think it was an eagle, and another seagull, and they attacked the doves of peace, which a lot of people have said, this is obviously some kind of bad omen for the future of the world.
One was attacked by a blackbird, the other was attacked by a hawk, or an eagle or something
terrible.
like that.
And I wondered, because your theory about my bird was that it'd fallen from the sky because it got cold. I wondered if it was attacked by something similar. Was there something going on with black hawks attacking white birds of peace?
It could be. It could be. Have you... you read that in the paper. I'll tell you something else I read in the paper the weekend, Mike. Do you believe in all these sort of, apparitions of death-type things that happen? Remember I said to you once that a mate of mine's brother was sort of dying over a period of 2 or 3 days. And he sat straight up and said, let's all have a sherry now. Yeah. And they brought out the bottle of sherry, had a sherry, and then he lay down and died. Yeah. I mean, it's an absolutely true story. This series I've been reading over the weekend is of incredibly strange phenomena like that. People...
just this stuff about, does this prove that, people have visions of death?
Yeah.
I don't believe in that.
No, but in one, there was a woman there who was a nurse, and she said so often, because, a lot of old people go to hospital before they die, she said she has literally seen elderly patients sit bolt upright in the night and have a conversation with somebody who's sitting at the bedside, and they can't, the third person can't see anybody there. An invisible person.
Yeah.
And then they turn around and say, I've just been having a chat with my mother, she's waiting for me, and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, that's probably just dementia, isn't it?
Well, I don't know. I think there's got to be something in it. There's got to be something in it. I mean,
you're saying you've started to see other people that other people can't see?
No, I haven't, but I do believe that when your time's up, there is a calling.
But when you were in serious trouble with your heart problem, I mean, were you ever at a point where you were near death then, when you saw that?
I was 36 hours away from death if I hadn't gone to hospital.
No, but that's not the same as actually being under the threat of death.
I didn't see the light, but I felt a tremendous sense of relief when I was told how serious my condition was, because for the past couple of years I hadn't known. Nobody diagnosed it, and so I was terribly traumatised by carrying around some sort of disease or illness, and I didn't know what it was. Now that I knew what it was, I was incredibly relieved, and I was at peace with myself. And I felt that if I was about to meet my maker, at least I would meet my maker with the knowledge of why I was meeting him.
And you've been nice to everybody ever since.
I've been nice to everybody ever since.
Absolute rubbish.
That's not fair. That's not fair. I mean, I go around buying your children expensive presents, which you can't be bothered to take out in the street and work for them. I think that's a very cruel thing for a father to do. Here's your present from Uncle Mike, but look, it's too cold for me to go out and fly it for you today. Well, I won't forget that one.
Well, stop going on about it. It's not that interesting. Mike Porky Parry and myself, Mike Graham, back after this.
Crazy, but that's how it goes. Millions of people living as ho-ho-hos. Yeah, but maybe...
This is Talk Sport Extra Time. We are the two Mikes. He is Mike Parry. I am Mike Graham. And, we were talking just before there about sort of near-death experiences and how quite often people will become religious, won't they, when something like that happens to them, if they have a health issue or they have friends or relatives that have health problems. And they turn to God. And many of them just say, well, I'm just sort of taking out insurance, really, just in case there is a God, as you were saying. You might as well try worshipping. There's a great story the other day in the papers about this vicar who's been forced out of his job at this church up in Merseyside. Yeah, the Anglican Church in Crosby in Merseyside, which you probably know better than I do. I don't know Crosby terribly well.
I don't know Crosby terribly well, but I mean, I know that part of the world, and a lot of people are partial to the odd imbibement.
Well, I wouldn't say that to blanch the entire community, but basically this is a guy who said that he turned up, thought that he was going to be kind of introducing slightly new modern worshipping techniques to the congregation.
Modern worshipping techniques?
I'm not quite sure what he thought he was doing in Crosby. But he says instead he didn't really find like-minded worshippers who would welcome him into the fold. Instead, he said he found a drinking culture akin to a social club, where he said that people would quite often turn up for his masses in a state of inebriation, which seems ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, why are you going to go to
Catholic church? Is it?
No, I think the Anglican Church.
Well, why do you say masses then? Because masses only happen in Catholic churches.
Well, they sort of have a mass in some Anglican churches.
Yeah, well, high church or something, I suppose. Yeah,
I don't want to have a sort of religious conversation with you.
No, I don't either. Well, it doesn't surprise me because I think certain parts of the church and drink are inextricably linked. I still don't know why they have communion wine in churches. That, to me, has always been a bit dodgy. But I'll tell you something, Mike.
Well, it's because the wine is supposed to represent the blood of Christ, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, you could use tomato sauce because that would be closer to the constituency of blood, wouldn't it, than alcohol?
Yeah,
but anyway,
but you don't want to drink. You don't want to drink tomato sauce.
No, of course you
don't. A chalice, can you?
No, but you can put tomato juice in a
Yeah, you could.
Well, whenever you have a tin of tomatoes, I sometimes have tomatoes on toast. Okay.
What?
I have tomatoes on toast.
What, out of a tin?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I love tomatoes on toast. It's great.
Well, how do you eat that?
Well, you put the tomatoes in a pan, of course, you fool, and you heat them up, and then you put them on 2 bits of toast.
Well, you just pour it over the...
No, this is the very point of the story I'm telling you. You lift the tomatoes out, not chopped tomatoes, but whole tomatoes.
Right. And peeled plum tomatoes.
Yes, peeled plum tomatoes. And you lift them out with a pair of tongs and put them on the toast.
Tongs?
Tongs, that's right. And that leaves all the tomato juice in the pan.
So what do you do with that?
Well, exactly. What I do is, I boil up a kettle, right, and I get some, spices, like some ketchup or something. Put it all in.
Spices like ketchup.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Put it in the pan and stir it round. And then I put it in the fridge to let it settle. And then later in the day or the following day, I drink it cold as the most nutritious...
So you actually drink ketchup?
Yeah, I do, yeah. And
that's not nutritious.
It is, it's very nutritious.
It's full of sugar and it's full of salt.
If you have 1 tin of tomatoes a week, you'll never get prostate cancer.
I'm not talking about the tomatoes, I'm talking about the ketchup.
Well, the ketchup's only a little drop to flavour it, that's all. I'm talking about a little drop of,
Well, you put oregano in it to flavour it.
Well, sometimes I put an OXO cube in it to flavour it.
Oh, that's really healthy as well.
Yeah, of course it is, yeah.
So you turned quite a healthy, vegetable option into something actually which is rather bad for you.
No, because I drink it. Anyway, look, point my story about this...
Why don't you just buy tomato juice?
Well, because I prefer the natural juices from the tomato.
It's not natural, though. You put all sorts of rubbish in it.
No. Anyway, look, the point of my story is about the old vicar there, right?
But I still don't want to know how you eat the tomato on the toast, because it rolls about, doesn't it?
No, don't be ridiculous.
You flatten it down with a fork.
No, you just put it on the toast. Does an egg roll about when you put it on toast?
Well, you would if you didn't cut it up, yeah.
Well, you cut the tomatoes up, don't you fool?
Right. OK, well, I didn't know.
And look, tomatoes aren't circular anyway, you nitwit.
Yeah, has Egon Ronne been told about this great recipe of yours?
Well, I thought everybody ate tomatoes on toast. Do you eat beans on toast?
Not very often, no.
Well, I eat beans
Not
on
since
toast.
I was about 7.
Tomatoes on toast I like. Sardines on toast.
Sardines on toast I'll have.
Yeah, I'll anyway, look, point of my story is we're talking about vicars and drink, OK? Now, when I worked on the Birmingham Evening Mail in the Redditch office, whenever we were short of a story on a Thursday afternoon, because you have to look forward towards the weekend, we used to go to a little village called Studley at opening time, 5:30 in the evening, to a pub called the Lord Nelson, I think it was. And the local vicar was always in there at opening time. And
he's not technically working on Friday, is he?
This is a Thursday. Yeah. And by the time we left him at 7:30, after we'd given him 6 or 8 pints of beer, every one of which he drank, we had a notebook full of stories. The choir master had run off with the organist. Somebody had nicked all the lead off the roof of the church. Some local resident of the village was, at war with another resident over a tree that was growing up in the garden. And it was marvellous for stories. But we only got them because we got him inebriated on beer, which he liked drinking very much indeed. And he used to come in his dog collar and everything.
Well, I think there's nothing wrong with a vicar who wants to get involved in the congregation and sometimes goes to the pub as well. But I mean, the problem with all of that, I suppose, is that, as you say, if the congregation's actually drunk, then that's a big problem. Well, that was what this guy's problem was.
If they're making a noise and being rowdy during the service, I can understand that. But I mean, I've been to plenty of church services pretty badly inebriated when I used to make a...
Really?
What
were you going there for?
Well, I was about to say, because I used to make a habit of going to the midnight carol service on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, well, I think everybody's a bit drunk when they go to that.
Yeah, exactly.
Because those are the sort of people that go when they don't go the rest of the year.
Also, I mean, weddings, I think including yours...
My first introduction to wine, actually, was as an altar boy, because I was an altar boy when I was younger.
Really?
Why are you looking at me like that?
Doesn't bear imagination,
From the age of about 7 to the age of about 12.
I think my first experience of alcohol was at a wedding reception, friends of my parents, when I was about the same age, and I nicked a baby sham off the table.
Did you?
Yeah.
What age were you?
About 8, I think.
You stole Babycham when you were 8?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
I'm not surprised you ended up the way you did.
That's true, yeah.
Well, I just ended up, because I was similarly like you. I mean, I think the reason they introduced wine to be representative of the blood of Christ was that in the old days, that was kind of what they had. They didn't only have frying pans to fry up tomatoes and make tomato juice and
true.
all of that. And you probably couldn't buy tomato juice, but they probably had tomatoes. But wine signified what the blood of Christ was. And I was really getting puzzled as to how this changed, because I used to have to stand there as the priest made the transformation, basically, and turned this stuff into blood.
Did you get a little biscuit to put in your mouth as well?
No.
Don't you
the host.
Sorry?
It's a wafer thin host, which is supposed to represent the body of Christ.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
You're not very good on religion.
No, I'm not very good on religion, no.
But anyway, I was slightly puzzled as to how they could actually transmogrify wine into blood and what it would then taste like. So I thought I'd better taste the wine first.
Did I taste it?
And then I'd try and see if I could have a bit of the blood later.
Yeah.
And it didn't taste any different.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
So it wasn't changing.
Isn't that amazing? And
I started to lose a bit of faith then.
Well, I'm not surprised. The other time that people are very inebriated in churches is at weddings, isn't it? Including yours.
Yeah.
Because I was in the pub for about 3 hours before I went to your wedding.
Yeah.
With
I was
Mickey
in the pub for about 3 years before I decided to get married.
I know, yeah. And then you spent another 3 years afterwards when you decided to get divorced.
Well, the great thing about my wedding was it was so short, because I managed to convince the priest, who was a Catholic church in New York. I said, there's so many people coming who are of very different religions, and many of them not religious at all.
Yeah.
We don't really want to have a mass.
Make it as short as possible.
And we'll just have a couple of readings and a couple of songs. Yeah. And in fact, I think a Beatles song was "All You Need Is Love" was played as we walked out.
Oh, was
at
it?
the end? Yeah. Oh. Do you not remember that?
No, I was inebriated.
Yeah. So a couple of people turned up like 5 minutes late and missed the whole thing, and only found you outside clutching a bottle of champagne, which I'd asked you to do.
Yeah.
And we had a little toast on the pavement.
That's right. And I couldn't wait to get to the loft that we'd borrowed off Bob Smith to have the wedding reception.
Yeah.
That's all I was interested in, frankly.
Yeah. Well, I don't blame you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So
that was all I was interested in.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what. While we're on the subject of wine, did you see this story in the paper about this double glazing salesman who drinks wine in a bottle in 4 seconds? He drinks the entire bottle in 4 seconds.
Well, he's mad. I mean, you will die.
It's got in the paper. It said, "Don't try this at home."
No, you shouldn't do it at home. You could die doing that. Do you know why? You so overload one of the organs
he
in your
claims
body.
it's his party trick. They're saying he's going to kill himself.
You will kill yourself. You could seriously damage your liver and your kidneys doing that. I did a story once about a kid. It was a tragic story. A kid of 18 or 19 came home from his first holiday in Spain with his mates. Brought a duty-free bottle of Bacardi with him and drank the whole lot as a stunt in the pub in 20 minutes, and he died of alcoholic poisoning. I mean. Those stories are tragic. They're not even funny. You know what I mean?
It's shocking. People don't realise how quickly the body cannot deal with that
sort of
level of alcohol.
I mean, what we did is actually in this story, we did the straight story, and then we got a medical expert to explain what exactly happened. And the way he described the way the functions of the body and when one of your organs goes, it'd probably be the liver to start off with, or maybe even the kidneys, the amount of alcohol going through it. The organ then sends out a message to other organs in the body, help me, help me, help me. So the brain suddenly gets a message, the kidneys and the liver need a bit of help, and that starts working on that, and then the heart tries to kick in to help, and then you get something called multiple organ failure, and you just die. You simply die. That's it.
Well, that's a cheery story. Thanks very much for telling us that one.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about...
no, but I mean, it's a warning. It's a warning because, kids get so carried away. A mate of mine went there once and he said, hey, Mike, is it true that in a situation where you go non-stop drinking for 36 hours, you can drink yourself back to sober? And I said, no, that's a ridiculous theory.
You drink yourself to death.
Yeah, this kid was a bit thick, into the local secondary modern instead of the sort of school that I went to. And I said...
this while you were still at school? We was having this conversation.
Well, it was when we were just leaving school at 18. And I said, no, don't try that. That's ridiculous. You can never drink yourself sober. He said, I thought you could. I'm going to give it a really good go. I said, you won't come home if you do. Don't do it. But that's the sort of ignorance that, youngsters have of alcohol. They think it's very exciting, very daring, but in fact it's a killer.
It is a killer. And that's why we don't do it, of course. We don't recommend it. Talking about crazy behaviour, what about that guy, Carl Colley, his name was, the guy playing for Goole FC? And the bizarre thing about this is, I talk about coincidence, this is a guy who on the anniversary of the Eric Cantona Crystal Palace Kung Fu kick, to the day, does not quite the same thing, but he runs up into the crowd and starts having a fight with this guy who was giving him a hard time after he got sent off.
Yeah, he's now been banned from the club for life or something.
Yeah, they've told him he'll never play again.
And I think he'll be prosecuted as well, if not by the football authorities and maybe by the police or something for assaulting this guy. But, I mean, look, I can understand the frustrations of it and all that, but fans actually do have the right to shout abuse. I don't
agree with you about that. I don't think they've got the right to shout abuse. I mean, there's certain things that fans shout which I don't think they should be shouting.
I don't mean abuse, I mean criticism. criticism.
Well, criticism is one thing.
Yeah, I
But
agree
once
with
it
you.
starts to get
I agree with
abusive, it starts to get... I mean, it goes back to that whole Theo Walcott thing, doesn't it? The
Of course it
2-0
does, yeah.
And the coins being chucked
Yeah,
and everything
yeah,
like that.
it's
You know,
disgraceful.
I don't think there was anything wrong with what Theo Walcott did.
Of course
I don't
there
think there
wasn't.
was any reason why he should have been castigated
I
for
was
it.
I was at the Palace the night Cantona did
Oh,
that.
really?
But it was an FA Cup replay,
Yeah.
and I was with the FA at the time, and it was quite astonishing, really. And that's why Mr. Brazil now forever goes on about me being a doorman at the FA instead of the executive.
He does always say that, doesn't
the
he?
executive
It's always
officer
a bit
that I
unkind,
was.
the way he
Yeah,
does
very unkind. Yeah, I was an executive officer at the FA, assisting. David,
You're not the press officer?
No, Director of Communications with David Davis and personal assistant to Terry Venables, who was the England manager, because Terry looked to me for guidance and advice on
You
those
must have
sort
been
of things.
delighted that it was Eric Cantona and not some English player.
Well, I imagine so, but the point is, the reason why Mr. Brazil keeps going on about being a doorman was the hearing for Cantona was held at a hotel just off the M1 at Watford, and it just so happened as I arrived, Cantona was coming the other way, so I held the door open for him. No, like you would, and,
so it's got some basis in truth. Then.
Well, only a very small basis. The fact that I was polite, the fact that I didn't sort of shun him because he was on trial by the FA and I was with the FA, and I said, Mr. Cantona, and he was very polite and kind and all that. Somebody got a picture of that, and to this day, Brazil carries that picture around in his wallet. Look, here's Porky, the FA doorman. It's a sin.
That's very, very funny indeed. But anyway, this guy has been, as you say, quite rightly banned for the rest of his footballing life from playing for Goul FC. But the video is really quite horrendous as he runs up into the crowd and starts punching people. Ridiculous situation. Mr. Parry, thank you very much indeed. No doubt you'll be even more buoyed by the fact, I'll just mention this as we go, that Leighton Baines has agreed to stay at Everton and not go to play for his former boss.
Absolutely wonderful, and a sign of the times about Everton's future and the extreme confidence we have in the club.
Do you think the scoreline is going to suit you tonight, then?
I think Everton will win. I don't have a problem with that. I'm more confident about Everton at Anfield than I was with them at Stevenage, because Stevenage is a banana skin, and Everton have no fear against standing up against big and powerful clubs and teams in this country. Everton to win, I would say 2-0.
Thank you very much indeed.